I can cover only briefly. First, the literary evidence. And the main thing which scholars immediately noted is that if Aryans had come into India, and then they settled on the banks of the Indus or its tributaries or the Saraswati, because Saraswati, as we will see, is very frequently mentioned in the Rigveda, you would expect them to carry with them memories of their homeland, of their long travel through Central Asia at least, and then the crossing of the Afghan passes and so on. This would have been something which would have remained important culturally in the memory of that people. There is absolutely no such trace. Despite valiant efforts by many scholars, the Rigveda is absolutely silent about any land outside India. In fact, its territory, its geography, as we'll see, is basically northwest of the Indian subcontinent. So this is embarrassing. And Sri Aurobindo in 1915, even before him, Swami Vivekananda had already made similar statements. He said, there is actually no mention of such an invasion. There is no reliable indication of any racial difference between so-called Aryans and the Dasyus, who are supposed to be the original inhabitants subjugated by the Aryans. Even modern scholars, George Dasyu, who is both an Indologist and archaeologist from Canada, recently wrote, even apparently clear indications of historical struggles between dark aborigines in the Rigveda and Arya conquerors turn out to be misleading. So we have to be very cautious with the text. In fact, typical example is, how do we conclude that the Dasyus are dark-skinned? They're not dark-skinned. The Rigveda never says that they are dark-skinned. It says that they are wrapped in darkness. They are wrapped in a thick envelope or cover of darkness. Now, this is something which is not the same as being dark-skinned. And in many mythologies of the world, when you have a battle in Greek mythology, for example, between forces of light or good and forces of evil or darkness, you will represent the demons, whoever they are, as basically dark. Even in popular Amar Chitra Kathas, when an Asura is depicted, he's depicted as being dark-skinned. It doesn't mean that he belongs to a different race. It simply means that there is something dark about him. So we have to be careful not to use figurative or metaphorical language on a very literary footing and to try to deduct biological facts from what is essentially a metaphor. Stubb knows the same thing. There is one passage in the Rigveda, and only one, which is that the Dasyus are depicted as Anasa. Now, Max Muller translated Anasa as Anasa, which therefore would be noseless, and all scholars after him started saying that, well, the Dasyus are noseless, and therefore they are Dravidians, as if South Indians had no nose worth the name. But somehow this was the impression, and this is just because of one single occurrence in 1,024 hymns. In fact, the traditional interpretation of Anasa in India by Sayana, the Vedic commentator of the 15th century, had been not Anasa but Anasa, which means mouthless. And the Veda constantly insists on this notion that those who really are the Aryas are those who pronounce correctly the mantras. If you cannot pronounce the Vedic mantras correctly, they have no efficacy. So mouthless means, and this is made clear by other passages, those who actually cannot pronounce, or those who sometimes corrupt the mantras, the Vedic speech. So this is what it means, and not noses. You can see how easy it is to slip into predetermined interpretations. And the second remarkable point of the literary evidence is that, what about those Dravidians? They're supposed to have been either slaughtered or driven to South India. And we do have in Tamil an ancient literature called the Sangam literature, which the earliest layers of which go back to possibly 200, 300 BC at the most. And well, there are many traditions, legends, stories which are part of it. And the striking thing is that there is not one of them which refers ever to this grand scenario of having been driven away from their cities and hunted all the way to South India. There is absolutely no such memory of a clash, whether physical, cultural, religious, or any. The only clash with the Arya kings, as the Sangam literature calls them, meaning North Indian kings, are of a military nature, where many Tamil kings boast of having gone to North India and conquered this king, that king, brought back waters from Ganga and stones from the Himalayas and such things. So this has nothing to do with the Aryan Invasion Theory. And in fact, the Sangam literature is highly respectful of the Vedas. It considers that the Brahmanas who sing the Vedic hymns are to be revered, to be respected. All the rituals depicted are basically Vedic rituals. If you see the wedding of Kannagi and Kovalan in the Shilapadikaram, they walk around the fire altar 7 times, and so on and so forth. So there is plenty of evidence to show that we have neither memory of such an event, but also no